Well, of course, as you are aware, Ghana as a country has been mining since 100 years. Just a year ago, we celebrate our 60th year independence, which means that mining has, predated long before independence. And unfortunately, for a country like Ghana, the issues of capacity regulations in terms of value chain benefits, local content issues have become very predominant. And it's becoming a worry to us because most of these companies come in each day and then and say, Ghana, you haven't got a capacity. But the point I keep on asking is, a country mining 100 years, how come they don't have a capacity? 26-year-old guy comes to Ghana to do mining, telling a country that has been mining for 100 years that we don't have the capacity. So there is a problem, and that's mistrust in terms of the gap between the company and government. We need to look at it. And that is why His Excellency, the current president, is so much concerned about how government benefit along the value chain of mining. For all this period, we have been undertaking what we call the rent-seeking approach. That's one, of course, a very lazy approach of government in undertaking rent, taxations, and royalties. But we believe a lot more, 60% of that lies along the value chain, where Ghanaian local content can participate and make sure that we derive the benefit. So the new government is coming up with a holistic program, and as part of the government master plan of Ghana Beyond Aid is to make sure how we benefit from the mining sector. Well, the strength and the weaknesses basically is as a result of government inability to collaborate with the mining sector for long, and the mining sector in terms of the companies also in a hurry to maximize returns on their investment. And so that issue of collaborations for win-win had not been derived for this long period. And so this is the time for us to sit down and say, well, companies of course need return on their investment. Government needs, some cash flow in terms of maximized revenue. How can the two sides come together and make sure that the benefit is of a win-win approach? And so as a country, we're coming out what we call the National Supplier Development Program. This is a conscious effort by government to make sure that suppliers in terms of the mining industry are well trained, dedicated towards to make sure that they live up to the expectations of the company, so that these stories of saying we don't have the capacity, will no longer exist. So that is what we're doing. We are also doing a complete regulations for the local content agenda, but we want to merge this local content drive with a value addition. 100 years mining, no refining policy. We still don't refine our gold in Ghana. People don't believe it, but this is true. And so the question is why? The hallmark of mining in terms of the revenue derived from the refinery is rather attracted to other countries. So those countries that refine Ghana gold are presumed to be the manufacturers or the originators of those gold, while the real country is Ghana. And so why don't we refine our own gold and portray it up to Ghanaians and other people to demonstrate clearly that this gold is coming from Ghana. So we're talking with the mining companies, and we're going to start pretty soon to see how we can start with at least 30% of refining of their gold, starting from Ghana. And then as we move alongside and then the market is created, we can extend that to maybe 50-60%, sometime in the future. As quickly as possible, as soon as possible. The refining companies have well been established. The mining companies have inspected them. They are up to international standard. And so the discussion is when we're going to start. And I can tell you that within the shortest possible time, within the next coming month, we should be able to start refining some of the companies in terms of the large scale, their gold in Ghana, so that we can say and be proud that this refined gold is coming from Ghana. And everybody sees the gold knowing that this gold is a Ghanaian gold. 2018 Mining Indaba, it's a very interesting platform. For me, it's an engagement between government and companies. For the companies to understand that there's a win-win approach, and the only way companies can make return on their investment is when they collaborate with government, and the only way government can get revenue from the mining sector is also when we collaborate with companies. So I'm attending this conference for a win-win approach for both companies and then for governments. Well, it has been clear, and from this section now, it is clear that mining countries that will have their own natural resources must begin to benefit. And so the issues of resource scarce, that disease, should no longer be seen, as a partial index of those countries, but rather we might see the resources as a benefit to the country. And the benefit program, as we rightly see through this section, is through value addition. And so that value addition is key. So for emerging countries, they must begin to look at value additions.